everyone. I welcome all of you to this episode of ETCIO Unfiltered series. My name is Mukbil Ahmed. I'm the executive editor at the Economic Times, ETCIO, and ETC. So, first of all, I wish and hope that all of you are doing well. Well, ETCIO Unfiltered aims to showcase the remarkable personal and professional journeys of some of India's most distinguished IT leaders. They will share their journey to the top, the challenges, the inspirations, and their words of advice to the next generation of leaders in the tech industry. Given their extensive experience and esteemed position, the leaders will share invaluable insights and blaze the trail for generations to follow through this exciting series. At a time when digital is the only way forward for businesses, there couldn't have been a better time to discuss this. For today's discussions, we have a very knowledgeable and insightful speaker amongst us who is a very senior technology leader. It is my pleasure to introduce Sachin Gupta, President and Chief Information and Innovation Officer, Usha International. How are you doing, Sachin?
Hey, Mukbil, thanks for having me. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm doing well. Hope you guys are well as well.
Wonderful. So, Sachin, it would be great if you could take us through your professional and personal journey.
Wow. So for personal, so let's say married, two daughters. They both are in US. One's in college doing psychology. Younger one, older one's graduated from University of Michigan Ann Arbor and is doing now working with Environmental Protection Agency in US. Married wife does a little bit of social service and works from home a little bit. As far as the rest of the family is concerned, they're in US. Education-wise, I've got a diploma in hotel management, bachelor's in hotel management, followed by MBA, and bachelor's, MBA, and then master's in information systems. All of that being from US. So professionally, I started my career in hotel management. I'm a graduate from Usha, went to US in '89, got transitioned into IT by chance, by luck, moved from hotel management. So I used to run restaurants, food and beverage. So moved from hotel management to IT, and then in hotels, and then out of hotels into mainstream IT. So that's been journey. In 2005, I moved to India, wanted kids to go to school in India, and I've been in India since. As far as organizations I've worked for, so currently with Usha, before that I was with Havels, before that I was with Times Group, so before that with Microsoft for 7 years. Prior to that, in US, I worked for Toyota, Cardinal Health, Deloitte, so on and so forth.
Wow, that has been a very, very interesting and a very diverse. I actually didn't know that you started off with hotel management. So, Sachin, that's very, very interesting.
Thanks. And before that, I actually wanted to be a fighter pilot. So the only thing I ever wanted to do was fly MiG-21s, but couldn't get into that because of my height. So walked away from it, and then hotel management and so on and so forth.
Amazing, amazing. This is truly an amazing story. So, Sachin, would you like to share anecdotes on how you, evolved into the business and technology leader that you are today? For example, facing the board for the first time, or your first career breakthrough. How was, something that you would like to share with our audience here?
For me, I think important is I got into IT by chance. So when I was in hotel, when I went to the college the first time, professor said to do the paper on in word processor, and this was in 1990. I didn't know what a word processor was. A professor said, "Okay, go. It's a computer." So I said, "Where can I find one?" He said, "In the lab." So we went to the lab, and I asked the technician. I said, "Sir, where can I find a word processor?" He says, "Oh, it's computer right there. Go and start typing." I said, "What do you mean start typing, right? There's got to be something else." He says, "Do you know computers?" I said, "No." And he says, "I don't have time for idiots like you." So I said, "Okay, at least I know who I am now." So next day, it bothered me. Next day, I went to the class. There was a friend of mine. Her husband was in IBM. I said, look, I need to learn computers. He said, Sachin, the best way to do it is on your own. And those were DOS days. So I still remember he went and got me a CGA monitor and a 286, and it had two 5 1/4 floppies. I still remember that. And spent $2,200 in 1990, got that and started learning. Right. So got interesting, moved to 3.1, 3.0, 3.1 Windows, and so on and so forth. So that got me realizing, Bill, that look, I'm liking computers, I'm enjoying it, and hotels didn't have much people in IT. So one day I kind of sort of the GM saw me working on a POS and said, "Do you understand computers?" I said, "I can make my way." So he says, "Great, from now on you're responsible." So kind of that's what got me into it, and then a master's in information systems, and then I got an certification. I'm a CCNA, I'm CSC NT40, I have Oracle DBA, all that kind of stuff. So kind of sort of then did that, moved into IT, and like they say, rest has been history. Anecdote wise, anecdote wise, I always say, and what has made me successful is, even though at from very early on, I always used to tell people that IT is a service provider, right? When people used to say, at IT people I used to say the companies run because of IT, and I used to say no, IT is a service provider, and um, IT exists because the organizations exist, and it's our responsibility to make sure we enable the business. And when I say we enable the business, which means we help grow revenue and reduce costs, right? So that's my biggest success criteria in years, right? So always said we need to make sure that IT is a service provider, it provides services, it enables business, and helps in increasing revenue and decreasing cost.
Absolutely. I think I couldn't agree more with you, Sachin. That keeping in view the current scenario that we have, IT is transforming into the role of a business enabler.
Right.
I totally agree with you. And, this is a very valid point coming from you. Now, so you have already told us about the initial hiccups when you were trying to, find your way through the IT maze. So, Sachin, apart from this, what were the other challenges, that you faced during your professional journey, which, which you encountered during your evolution as a technology leader?
I think the biggest challenge, so I didn't come out, so I came out of operations, right? So it was very easy for me to move into IT operations, right? So I always ran infrastructure, data centers, right? What was challenging for me is not understanding coding, right? So that took time. How the integrations happen, how an application works, or what is the logic behind. So I was great with logic, but never understood coding. So that was an issue for me in trying to talk to developers and trying to understand what they're doing, so on and so forth. But as the time moves on, as you deal with more and more, you understand that you really, and understood you really don't need to know coding, even though I did coding to learn coding once. So somebody said, Sachin, coding karna aapki bas ka nahi hai. So I was like, okay, fine. So I created a site, and I was in India. This is back in 2000. So I said, okay, now I'm going to learn coding. And the easiest was at that time was HTML. So I went out, got a domain name. It was called outletindia.com, created a website, and learned coding. So that's how it was. It was so getting a challenge and being able to fulfill it is what has been satisfying. And I've always made sure that any challenge that comes my way, that you put in your energy to be able to overcome it. And I think that's been what has made me successful, or at least got me where I am. So I never believed anything was impossible. right? Everything was possible. You just had to put your mind to it. And that's been my kind of sort of mantra of success so far.
Wonderfully said, Sachin, that nothing is impossible, and if human beings channelize their energies towards or focus their energies towards one particular domain, they will excel in that. And I think there is no better example than you sitting in front of
So
me, going through your journey. I mean,
you're
this
you're
is
being very
really.
humble. You're being very humble, Mukta. I am not such a great personality. I just do what I think is the right thing to do and continue to do forward. I've always made believe that for a person to be successful, you have to have a good team behind you. So I've had people that I've been thankful to have people who've worked for me for 17, 18 years in various positions. A person needs to delegate to make sure you're not carrying all the load, because otherwise you can only do so much. So with the team, you also need to delegate. And one critical thing that I've always lived by is that you need to know when to cut the cord and move on, right? But we as technologists who try and hold on to things, you need to know when to let it go and kind of sort of start all again after the learning. So that's critical. So the team's very, 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 very critical. And the success is now because of me. A team had a lot of role to play in it.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely understand that, behind every leader, there is a strong, a very robust team, which
Right.
is responsible for the achievements. Now, very quickly, Sachin, in 30 seconds, if we could have, like your words of advice to the aspiring technology leaders who are there and who want to really create a niche for themselves in this field.
So easy but very tough question. Well, I think I am I from the experience, and I'm nobody to preach the choir, but from the experience, um, you need to know who your target audience is, right? So if you are in a business, you need to understand what is business all about and how can you make the difference to that business, right? So business enablement, we talked about digital transformation, we talked about, right? So as long as you're making a difference, positive difference to the business, you will always have a seat on the table, or you will always have a say, and things would progress. You not only and I also say that a technologist today, or an IT person, is no different than a doctor or a lawyer. We have to continuously learn, right? So keep your eye on what are the things coming down the path for you and be ready for it. Otherwise, you will become obsolete very fast, and it won't take time for you to be replaced. So think about, so stay on the focus, look at what's coming down the path, be sure you're ready for it, your team is ready for it, right? and and most importantly is to build the team that will make you successful, like you said. Those are, I think, will be very critical aspects of it, from
Absolutely,
technology
absolutely,
people.
Sachin. Absolutely, totally agree. Couldn't agree more with you that technology leaders must focus on how to keep evolving in their role, how to keep learning, because this is a very dynamic field. In People who don't want to be redundant will need to keep up with an updated world. Sachin, it's been a wonderfully insightful talk with you. Thanks a lot for joining us today and enriching us with your experience. I am sure your words of advice will inspire countless aspiring IT professionals. And I would also like to thank the audience for joining us today. Stay tuned for more episodes. Till then, goodbye. Thanks a lot,
That's
Sachin, for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.